Hello, hello, everyone. So nice to see you today. Shannon Matson over here is my lovely Monday mentor, and I'm so glad Shannon is here. If you are new to me, I'm Jen Whitmer, and I help teams and leaders solve conflict and cultivate communication so they can create empowered teams. And Shannon has been a business mentor of mine. I kind of stalked her for a while from afar. And I was so excited when she agreed to be our Monday mentor today because I think she has a unique leadership story. So Shannon, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, thank you for having me. A
Oh,
longtime lover of all of your work. So to be here in your ozone where you give some of that brilliance in just this 20-minute set, so fun.
great. Well, I'm so glad you're here and that we've made this work. I one of the things I was really wanting to talk to you about, I think I serve a lot of women who are in the corporate space and trying to decide, do I want to move up in this world or do I want to take my skills and go somewhere else? And that is part of your story. You have created this amazing company, the Social Bungalow, and you own a coffee shop. And so you've done all of these different things, but that's not where you started. So tell us a little bit about your leadership journey and how you arrived here.
Yeah. Well, in the corporate world, it was all marketing, which is kind of where I transferred into the digital space. But it was initially, I was freelancing and then I was with companies or agencies and eventually kind of found my foothold as director of marketing, which then ascended from there. But I was able to be a director of marketing at different companies. And I was finding that in each of these industries that I'd get into, that there was an element of you get one big raise that first year when they say like, wow, you've really proved yourself. And then from there, it's okay, well, we can't give you that every year. It's going to be just like the 2%, the 3%, da, 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 da. You only get so high in title before they say, well, we're just going to keep giving you more responsibility, no bigger title, no bigger pay, because you're a company person, you're happy to be here. So I ended up moving from publishing into fitness franchising, doing corporate marketing for them. And that was great. And I loved it. But by the time I got into the fitness franchise, it was really growing, which was exciting. And I was traveling a lot and we got to work with celebrities. And there were all of these kind of bucket list items that happened for me. And at that point, it was the first time that the blinders came off and I was able to see what more I might want to do. And I had never really thought entrepreneurially prior because I was just on such a focused path of ascending in corporate, ascending in my marketing title, pay, and opportunity. And kind of when I got what I thought that I wanted to do, all this sexy, fun, exciting stuff, I was like, oh, okay, there's more now. And that's when I was able to kind of realize that.
One of my favorite stories that I've heard you tell a little bit is like you're sitting there and you've got your cardigan because it's always cold in corporate spaces. And like, what was that moment where you said, I need to make a shift? Like, when did that big leap of faith kind of start to just switch for you? What was going on?
Well, it's funny that you bring up the cardigan because it just conjured up an image of they had sent me out traveling for a good part of the summer where I was out in Miami and like not bad locations by any means. I was in New York, I was in Hamptons, all these things, opening up studios, training staff, schmoozing with the locals, blah, blah. And during this time, it was so back to back for months that when I came home to the office, they had given my office away. And so I was in this sort of like open air, modern like pod, which was extra cold with that office cardigan. So funny, we kind of forgot about that. And that was kind of like the impetus of, okay, if I'm only good for you because I'm throwing up my life, my relationship and everything kind of in harm's way in order to be boots on the ground. And then I come back and like, we can't even keep my office. That was a little bit of one of those micro tactile in front of your face moments where it did start to shift for me. I don't think that's exactly what you asked, but that kind of just popped up when you said that.
Yeah, no, we get to these moments where it's a little bit of like, we're not going to take it anymore. We feel like it's going to be on a big stage with all these people, but really it's that moment of, you gave away
Yeah.
my office,
Mhm.
like, and I'm extra cold now. It's the simple
Yeah.
things that start to shift us into deciding, wait, I think I want something different. And you could see that, oh, I need to make a shift. How did you decide to make that shift? So you're like, oh, there's all these opportunities someplace else. Did you quit all at once? Did you build something up and then leave? How? Because both of those ways are possible. What happened for you?
Yeah, we actually in that company had two directors of marketing, and they hired us initially to kind of make us duke it out, and one person was going to stay, which we did not know at the time. Thankfully, the company grew
That's
so
a
quickly.
lovely cultural piece. Sorry.
Awesome. We only learned that a couple years in, thankfully, when everything was in the CMO kind of just blurted it out like, oh, initially, but then we needed you both. Anyways, so we had ended up moving in different paths though, and he was doing more with like one angle, and then I got lumped into sales too and whatever. So we worked really well together though. We were like a dynamic duo. So in that, we both kind of started to realize this desire to not be there. And we said, what if we take our really good union of co-directors of marketing on the road and we start doing it for local Las Vegas businesses and kind of help the little guy out with these big picture marketing tactics that we know and all these things. So we started side hustling and getting some clients that way. He left the company first, and then I left the company second. And right then, when we were finally like an official outsourced co-directors of marketing, him and his fiance decided to move to San Diego, which was great. But he was like, if we're going to do the local thing, I guess I can pick up a San Diego chapter. And I was like, what do you think if we just dissolve it and I'm going to go my own way now? So I kind of sidestepped into online business strategy because it started with brick and mortar. It started with a partner. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, I quit my job. I lost my partner and I'm not super thrilled with the mom and pop thing. And then I found this inroad through one client into the female entrepreneur online space.
That's great. I love that story for a couple of reasons. One is it shows that there are stepping stones. Sometimes we think we have to totally leap to the next thing. Like, oh my gosh, I just have to quit and go. And when really there was like, okay, we built this up. And then this really great thing also changed. I'm sure there was some big emotions around losing a partner, even though that was the best decision. Sometimes that can be challenging, but those stepping stones are necessary. Sometimes we get caught in, this is the way it's always worked. We can do that in our leadership in our teams, and we can do that in our lives. Like, but I've always done this. When really new situations and new circumstances require sometimes a new approach. And you really handled that, I think, with grace in that, like, oh, I can do this over here. And that kind of brings me to one of my questions that I love to ask people of like how you know yourself. So I help people with the Enneagram as a personality framework. Shannon is an Enneagram 3, which means someone who is really driven and goal oriented. How did you use that to help you in this new space?
Yeah, well, first off, thank you for the grace comment because I don't know if that's fully how it looked or felt, but I appreciate it at this point. Um, I remember on that one of the phone calls we had about dissolving everything, I had said, just kind of bubbling up with excitement, now turning my face towards optimism with this opportunity to be a one woman show, that I wanted to do courses and I wanted to do speaking and all of these things that were not us being outsourced directors of marketing. And he was like, oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah. Like then it totally, we're on different paths. And at that point, I mean, we had none of that, but I can remember saying like, I want to have courses. I want to help more people. I want to get specifically in the female space and I want to be on stages and I want to speak and do all these things. And so with that transition process and just trusting myself to achieve it, it was a lot. It was exciting because it was like a whole new industry to figure out, but it was a lot of just kind of digging in and getting scrappy and being okay with what I needed to do because I was still doing outsourced director of marketing work while figuring out how to go more passive income or more one-to-many self-study versus being the one doing the doing and doing the marketing. And that transition phase from fully outsourced, like basically being somebody's director of marketing in their company, to being a coach to being then an educator has taken about 4 years of transition over time.
I love those details because I think sometimes we forget it when we watch someone else's story. Oh gosh, that took 4 years. And I think, oh wow. Even though I followed you for a long time, I didn't know that. And I was doing a podcast one time with somebody and I was talking about when I made the decision to leave after a really toxic work environment was July, but I didn't actually get to leave until January of the next
Yeah.
year. And why that 6 months doesn't feel long. In the middle of a toxic work environment, it was like I just physically feel it again. But like that work ethic, we sometimes are like, oh my gosh, when is it ever going to happen? And I think what we learn from that is keep going. Like there
Mm.
is something that happens after. after we pursue and we can iterate and move forward. So, one of the things I would love for you to tell us a little bit about is when you look back over kind of your life, like how you started and you went to college and you had this great career, where do you think you got this scrappy? Like, I can do this, I'm going to do this over here and do this over here and keep iterating to really develop this amazing company that you've created. Where did that scrappy come from?
Yeah, well, thank you. My mom was a extraordinary mom, still is, but she was a single mom, and we were down on our luck as far as finances go. And so we would have to move a lot to be able to find a new space to pay. So I went to 12 schools in 9 years. I was always the new kid. Like sometimes every 6 months, but it was absolutely every year, like 2 kindergartens, a different first, a different second, a different third, a different fourth, 2/5, on and on and on. So starting over all the time and learning those human skills of just how to like, you kind of almost get a formula. You go in, you have to play it this way, then you find a good friend, and then from there you can do this gets easier, you do that. Okay, I'm leaving again, time to start over. So I think that I was just kind of raised in this like flux state that I've been able to turn it into, you just view it as an opportunity, and you can always figure out a new space, which I guess kind of then followed me into corporate with jumping industries so that I could move up the ladder. And then here we are, trying to figure out this whole online owning a business and then a brick and mortar business and all that. So yeah, I would say it's just been like my military training of my youth.
Yeah. Well, and I think we neglect some of those types of things and discount what they can do for us. And part of self-efficacy, which is the really fancy word for confidence, which is the skill that we learn, is this idea of we've done it before, I can do it again. And sometimes we're like, it's not the exact thing. Well, every time I get a new iPhone, you know what? It's a little different, but it's kind of the same. And I start to transfer the same skills. And that is a really important part of developing confidence as a leader. Oh, I've done this before. And I love that you said, seeing it as a learning opportunity, taking the opportunity to see it as something new and optimistic. And it does. Amanda's saying that makes you adaptable. I have several clients who are military spouses, and they've learned this adaptability. And I think it's probably one of the most underutilized or appreciated skills that we have in leading ourselves. Like, oh, this idea of I can adapt to this, that confidence of doing it again. So I just think that's a really neat part of your story. And I see how it helps you. And I love that you've identified that as such a lesson for you. So I am really curious, what made you say, I'm going to jump into this online space? It's not new, but it's also ever changing. So how do you cope with that change that happens? And how did you decide to go there?
I had, in the process of transitioning, I had one client who was my like window into the space. She is a female fitness coach who had an online based membership, and helping her with her marketing, I was able to kind of peek into not only her business, other businesses like her, but she had a mastermind of women who had similar online based businesses. And I was exposed to that. And I call it the shiny corner of the internet. It was like all of a sudden there was this whole place of women utilizing their skills to monetize, selling them as services and structuring them in really smart ways to where it wasn't just done for you, done for you, done for you. And taking everything from corporate and seeing those businesses, those sales marketing tactics, but also those structure pieces, and infusing it, which was so easy because you just need like this much of it because you don't have a company of 200, into these small online businesses. And finding out the beauty of how swift a conversion can happen because it's heart-centered work. When somebody finds you on the internet and you operate kind of treating everybody in your charge, even if there's somebody who's never paid you $1, like they're a customer. We call it operating from radical care. And through that process of providing content and showing up for people, conversions emerge so naturally versus direct response marketing or media production marketing, all the output or the ick or the masculine or all of these things that can be used for good and can be used for bad. And we've all experienced that cringe, or we've all experienced really loving seeing like a Gary V video. Like, you can take it either way. But the ability to just kind of show up and do the thing you're going to do anyways, provide value for your audience, and allow for that audience to come on a natural journey that you're, of course, sort of influencing along the way. and them say, you have taken such great care of me on the free side. I can't imagine how it's going to be on the paid side. Like, I'm banging down the door to become your customer, client, student, has been something that's been really fun to kind of filter out a lot of the other marketing noise and allow for this speed and this like almost like unifying level of marketing where somebody finds you on the internet and says, finally, like, you are the person that I've been looking for because your voice and your services stand out so boldly.
I love that about you, and which I have a story about that in a second. But I think to like bring that out for, the whole class and people who aren't in their own online businesses, that's alignment. That's when what we value matches up with our words, that matches up with our actions. And the concept of radical care can be transferred to any team that you're working with, because you're not working with robots. You're not managing robots, friends. You're managing people, and they're humans who are feeling beings who think and do. And so when you can operate from that space of alignment of, here are our values and I'm going to infuse them every day in what I do, you get better work. You're like, the conversions happen. It's like almost like magic, but it's because it's that alignment. You're like, oh, I fit here. And that's what psychological safety and belonging in a team also does, is that concept of radical care. And I can remember when I was first starting my online business as a speaker and a coach, and like, oh, I've got to figure out this marketing thing. I come from an education background, not a lot of marketing happening there. There's a lot of radical care, but not a lot of telling my message. And so I was like, I need to find some help, and just following people around. And I watched you for a while. It was probably 6 to 9 months, just watching. And that concept of, I want to help people and I want to serve from radical care came through so clearly, even though I don't think I ever heard you say those words until I actually became a client.
Yeah.
And that's what I love. And I was like, I want to work with Shannon. Amy Porterfield's great. She does all these things, but I want to work with Shannon because she cares for people in a way that was different than the other things that I saw. And I think
Right.
that's the alignment of your values to what you do. And so thank you.
That's, yes, thank you. That is so flattering, because I always just feel so, every time you're on a call, every time you're in the room asking questions, digging in, doing the work and consuming my curriculum, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a flattering moment for me, because you are just such a brilliant individual. You know so much. You are such somebody that I love to learn from too, in your specific wheelhouse. I'm like, tell me more. I need all the communication help. And with when you're there and you ask a question, and we just have this mutual kind of like flowing duality between me learning from you, you learning from me. It's just one of my favorite things. And it's honestly humbling to have you in the room. So thank you
Oh,
for that.
that is really kind of not what I expected at all. So we're going to move past that, because as I say every time, I can't believe our time is almost up. So would you please share with us, tell us just a little bit and tease us about the sophisticated CEO suite and what it does for people who are maybe considering transferring out, or people who are already leading small teams in their online businesses.
Totally. Yeah. It is a curriculum of 6. Well, let me say it's a program of 6 core curriculums. So it talks to you a lot about marketing, but also about structuring your offers in an online based business. If you want them to be done with you, done for you, do it yourself. So you've got courses or group programs, service providing, agency, whatever you want to do to where you're an information expertise based online business. You have a skill set, you want to sell it, you just need to make it strategic. And once you do that, how do you market it? How do you bring people in? And my way of marketing, like we just said, is really helping people kind of find your web and then stay stuck in it and learn to love you if you're the right person for them, to where they consume and they talk about you and you transcend past internet and they're thinking about you in their real life. And then they emerge as a customer and stay in your wheelhouse and buy everything from you along the way. That's my favorite way to do it. So Sophisticated CEO Suite is those 6 core curriculums teaching you how to do that in this like master plan community. And then it has an attached 6 months of support so that I can be there in real time with all of the students to not only do daily Q&A and live master classes each month, but additionally have them submit the stuff they're working on, which is provided in templates and spreadsheets and all that. But to say, okay, I did it. And did I do it exactly right? Or are there ways that I can better it? I find that that is a real disconnect in the offer structure that I see. It's either like super high ticket, all completely done for you, or low ticket, I'm never going to look at it. Here's the curriculum. And I wanted to fuse the two together so that it's curriculum and support.
Mm-hmm. I think that is one of the best parts about it actually is here's what I did. And as a former educator and a coach, that kind of like, ooh, have you thought about this? Because you need that outside perspective I found so valuable and helpful. So I love that that's one of the parts of this. So I'm so
Yes.
excited. And you can find out more. Whoop, whoop, there you go. The Sophisticated CEO Suite. Shannon's got lots of great things for you. Shannon, I so appreciate your time today and just your wisdom. I think sometimes we were talking beforehand, you're like, I don't know if I'll be brilliant. And I'm like, I think you're always brilliant because what may be simple for you and all those things that you worked at is just magic to the rest of us who don't have that brilliant marketing brain. And most of all, I care about how much you care about people. And that is what I really love about you. So thank you for being here today. And go check Shannon out. Where can we find you? That's the last thing. Like, where's the place you play the most?
Yes. So the Social Bungalow is the name of the business, and that's what I am on all social platforms, the Social Bungalow. But with that, Instagram is my main hub, and I hang out there all the time. So even if you wanted to just send a message and say, I saw you here with Jen and I had a question, or just say hi, that's where you can find me most easily.
Fantastic. Check her out, The Social Bungalow, on all the socials, and we will see you all next week. Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye.